Call the meeting to order of the Strategic Housing Finance Corporation at 10:12 a.m. on October the 7th, 2021. Could I get a roll call of directors, please?
President Wilmer Roberts,
Here.
Director John Hernandez, Director Eddie Karam,
Here.
Director Robbie Meyer.
Here. We have a quorum. We have a quorum. Thank you very much, sir. Okay, item 2 is the consent agenda, approval of the minutes of August 10th, special meeting. Can I get entertain a motion for that, or any suggestions for corrections or anything before we move? Is there a second? All in favor? Aye. Okay, item 2, consent agenda is approved. Item 3 is public forum, citizen communication. Who do we have listed in citizen communication?
Gabriela Garcia.
Okay, well, let Ms. Garcia, is she on and ready to go, please?
I am on, and there are also tenants here.
Gabriela, can you hear us?
Yes, can you hear me? Hello, can you hear me?
Hello?
You can't hear me?
Did this go off? The Bluetooth? Hello, can you hear us?
I can hear you all.
Bluetooth mode.
Hello?
Connect.
Can you all hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, yes, I am here, and there are also tenants present that I believe also wanted to speak. B and Keisha are here. Hello?
Save it here. Save it here.
Okay, I was trying to we will, while you're working on that, Mr. Hernandez is just arrived. Could you add him to the quorum for today, please?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Is Miss Gabriela ready?
Ms. Garcia, are you ready? Hello? Ms. Garcia, are you ready to speak? Hello? She must have dropped off.
Yeah.
Do you have your computer? Can you send her the link again, maybe?
Okay. Is there anybody else that can get on and speak? Ms. Garcia is having technical difficulties. Can we move to someone? Is there anybody else?
Keisha Prince, are you there?
Yes, I am here.
Would you like to speak under citizen communication?
Yes, I guess I can speak. I guess I was told that we could speak on the things that are continuing to go on with this relocation. And from my end, there's still lots of confusion going on. I mean, I can't tell you when I'm going to get information on when my place is ready. I went to my place and neighbor told me that all of my lights have been on for over a month, day and night. And I came twice and called Patrick and told him that the door was left unlocked. So I was able to go in and see what had been done and to see that they were doing work in rooms that were not repaired in February, that they've done damage and that my place looks worse than what it was. And all he could say was, well, your place is going to be ready in 10 to 12 days and it looks a hot mess. And they didn't demo all that was demoed before. So I really don't know what's going on. And I have no timetable on to know anything about what's going on. And all of us are still left in the dark. We don't know what's going on. So hopefully we can get some kind of clarity. We're not having weekly meetings, we're not getting updates, and the mailbox situation is still a mess. So I don't know we don't know where to get answers from.
All right, thank you, Ms. Prince. We appreciate your comments and your concerns, and we'll ensure that someone gets out back to you. Okay, who's next up
Oh.
there to speak?
Gabriela Garcia, are you there? Okay. I did. She must have dropped off.
Ms. Garcia? Is there anybody else that wants to speak on the public forum?
Ms. Garcia is having difficulties trying to reconnect, but I am Burial Dumas. I am tenant at the Rosemont, representing my grandmother Linda Goff. I just want to backtrack on what Ms. Keisha just said about Rosemont. Mr. Howard, I don't know how aware you are with the progress of the apartments, what's going on back there. I would challenge you to go to the apartments whenever you have time to get someone, maybe Phoenix, to give you a walkthrough of some buildings that has been prepared. Um, it's just, I'm just gonna be frank and tell you, it's just a waste of money. What they're doing is 100% a waste of money. You will have to go back and redo everything that they have already done. I talked to one of the supervisors. I asked him about whether they're going to fix the attic, re-installation, that part of it. And he basically said, no, they are supposed to do exactly what Romas told them to do. But however, if they run across a wet spot, they are to address it. I asked him, did he feel the dip in the floor going towards the back room in the apartment? He said he paid no attention to it, but he would go back up and see exactly what I was talking, because the back bedroom was caving in on the neighbors below. And they was just preparing, well, they was fixing up the unit without literally taking care of the main problems. So I just challenge you, Mr. Howard, to go down there, demand that they give you a walkthrough so you can see with your own eyes exactly what's actually taking place back there, and not taking their word of mouth, because they're basically telling you exactly what they want you to hear or want you to know. And that's not, it's not cool, because at the same point is money that's literally being wasted, and we are still displaced, and the holidays are coming up, not to mention how many people that has illness or physical illness going on with their bodies. Is very discomfort for a lot of people. And like Ms. Keisha also say that the mailbox situation is still a mail. Every time we try to call to pay bills, we have to go through about 5 million steps, because we can understand why the computer automatic system is not allowing us to pay the bill. Finally, when you talk to a representative, then you find out it's all because your mail they keep sending the mail back. And the companies then understand exactly what is going on. So imagine you have to literally call everything, every person, every company, whoever, to tell them word of mouth, I need to change my address. And why we have to call and change address directly to those companies? Because when you go to the mailbox, I mean the post office, and do a change of address, they still sending your mail back. It's like you literally have to do too much literally to get some kind of normalcy back in your life. And it's overwhelming. It's getting to the point where people just want to pull their hair out. I know my hair is falling out. I'm a chubby chick and I've lost weight. I fit a pair of pants I haven't fit in 4 years just by dealing with Rosemont. And I can lose weight, but I don't mind losing weight at all as long as it's healthy weight. This is stress weight and it's not good. So I challenge you to go to that project that you're dealing with Rosemont. Go look at the projects of what's actually taking place in each unit. It demands a walkthrough and explanation on exactly what's going on. Look at the apartments and see that they're half stepping and demand that they do right. Because after all, it's not like it's being done for free. You guys are paying for it. And that's all I want to say.
Okay, thank you. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes, okay? Next.
Can you all hear me now? This is Gabby Garcia with Basta.
Go ahead, Ms.
Yes.
Garcia.
Okay, great. So I don't have anything prepared. I just want to say that the last time that we were here, it was a really disappointing experience for tenants. Their concerns were dismissed, and then the board voted to shut them out of the process by telling Mr. Howard to not meet with them or to not put any of the verbal agreements in writing. And tenants were hoping that they could reopen conversations at the seat at the table event that was specifically for the Strategic Housing Finance Corporation board, but nobody on this board even had the courtesy to respond to the invitation. And still, like throughout all of this, no one from the board has communicated with tenants. And these are the people that you're supposed to serve. And so tenants don't know if like the thought was that ignoring them and dismissing them was going to lead to them getting tired and going away, but it really had the opposite effect. It motivated them, it brought them together. And so the tenants just talked to you about a lot of the problems that are happening at Rosemont. A lot of this is because of the lack of oversight of both the leasing office and the construction workers, and this falls directly on the Strategic Housing Finance Corporation to make sure that the work is being done correctly. And so, yeah, we're just here we're hoping that the plan that you all were asked for a while back is going to be discussed today. And we're hoping that moving forward, you will involve tenants and not continue to dismiss them, because a lot of the things that have moved forward were because of the tenant ideas. Thank you.
Anyone else? Anyone else? Okay, if we don't have anyone else, we'll move from the public forum to the regular meeting. Item number 4, discuss updates to the Rosemont at Oak Valley. Next item on that, Mr. Powers.
Yes, sir. When it's on the comments made, I'll make it brief because I know we have a couple items on the agenda that will address some of what has transpired. But just as a way, by way of update, all of the residents that have been temporarily relocated, after due to the inability to have them move into the units, by the end of September, we have since relocated them again to facilities that we've been working with them individually on, primarily Airbnbs, generally in the South Austin area, although some are outside of the South Austin area. For those that are outside of the area, significantly outside of the area, aka 10 miles or so, we've been providing them reimbursement for mileage at the federal mileage rates. For that purpose, we also did a one-time reimbursement at the tune of $150 for individuals in the hotel because of the lag time between relocating to the hotel the day of the move and checking out, relocating to another temporary location and relocating, leaving a hotel and relocating to another temporary location. We are still processing reimbursements for expenses that have been incurred resulting from the relocation effort. And what I mean by that is in some cases, folks did move items themselves, secured storage facilities. In some cases, they have paid deposits in locations or paid for application fees, and all those things are reimbursable, and we have been reimbursing those residents for that. As you all are aware, or some of you all are aware, we did attempt to relocate some of the first tenants back to the units, of which we had one walkthrough with the tenant. Came to the realization that there may need to be some board intervention as relates to the scope, and the board executive committee did accompany the staff out to the sites. We'll talk about that at later on in the agenda, but there was some decisions made about the potential expansion of the scope to include some of the items that weren't addressed as a result of the work related to the storm, but things that should be addressed as a part of the residents relocating back to the units. So they all are still temporarily relocated. We believe that obviously, even with the expanded scope, that the schedule shouldn't change significantly in terms of what's being scheduled. The real estate folks give you a general overview of sort of the schedule per se, as far as where we are. I mean, I could turn that over to them now, but and I will. But I'm thinking if there's any questions that anybody had, or we can just have a general update on where what things are looking like currently on the site.
Okay, Robert, Keith?
Specifically, I'm going to address what was requested last time was the question of where are we at with regard to insurance. And so I provided a staff report that outlined where we are with regard to insurance. You want me to go through each of the points, or do I assume that you've read it, each of the points? So, all right, just so the bullet points is, of course, on April the 4th, we filed a claim for insurance. On April 29th, we went out and actually had a meeting with the independent adjuster, TML, the contractors, and we walked the property to see the extent of the damage. Subsequent to that, TML provided us with a letter of, and they call it reservation of rights, and I provided that within the package, just kind of outlining their position. On July 29th, which is 90 days later, we were supposed to provide a sworn affidavit of loss, which we did. It was for $5,475,000. I provided you with 6 pages of the 66 that were submitted to them, which kind of outlines our position. What we received back on August the 20th was $1,623,310.68, falls far short of what we had requested. And then subsequent to that, they gave us a small check of $50,056.08 that had to do with the leasing office, etc. I think where our situation is the amount that the insurance company has provided us thus far kind of represents the invoices that were actually, or for work that was performed back in March of 2021. Everything else that we provided, they had not addressed. I think where their position is they've got to determine where the leak occurred. And what I showed in my staff report write-up, what happened is obviously when all the pipes burst due to the freeze damage, you were unable to get a third-party plumber out there to fix the repairs. So the maintenance guy did a number of the repairs, and it's a patch that was done is called shark bite. And so they obviously sawed off that what was busted and reattached it. The problem is that we don't have invoices for that. And when we met with the independent contractor and the adjuster, Sol, who pointed to what they did, he said, well, what about all the other repairs? Well, that's when we determined that, hey, the maintenance guy did a number of the repairs. So we tried to document that. We tried to get the maintenance guy back and even offered to compensate him to meet us out there to show the adjuster what it is that he had done. We wasted 2 or 3 weeks trying to get that accomplished, and he's refusing to come back. So what we've done is we've hired an independent plumber to go back and document all the repairs that were made by the maintenance person, Rafa. Once we have done that and they have been out on the site to do that, then we will call the insurance company back out again and say, here are the repairs that were done by the maintenance person. Once insurance gets a hold of that, then they've got to process that. But then that's the issue. They're going, I see all this damage, but I don't know how it occurred. And so this is to answer that question and to document this is how it occurred. Once they process that information, then I think they can go forward. They're kind of not really looking at what work has been done with regard to remediation and build back, et cetera, until they can get that question answered. So that's what we're focusing on. And hopefully that will get accomplished here. I talked to property management. They said they should be able to get the certified plumber along with the independent adjuster out there next week to kind of go over that process. How long it will take them to then process that information, I'm not certain. I would say maybe 30 days. With regard to where we are with the insurance proceeds, I went ahead and listed the funds that we have received. And as I stated earlier, the 2 checks that we received from insurance company, and then the net amount that we received from issuing the additional bonds. Once you deduct approximately 500,000 off the insurance proceeds, bond proceeds and the closing costs, and then add the insurance, we have about 2.6 million that's available to us. And we have advanced 2.6 million out of our pocket. So basically what we're doing is reimbursing ourselves for what we have done so far. As the board members that were out there, you saw contractors running around everywhere, and that's very expensive. And we're getting the repairs done. We had to submit that money through the indenture. We then will request it back. I anticipate that we'll use that money all the way up to 2.6 million again to keep contractors moving forward. Keith will get into the upgrades that we're currently doing and how, what we're doing. We don't know at this point what that's going to cost us. That's additional costs that I didn't anticipate with these funds. And so if you have any questions with regard to that, I'll be happy to answer them. If not, I'll turn it over to Keith as far as the current update on the units that are being built back.
I would just encourage you, Robert, to expedite that process of getting as quickly as you can with regards to the plumbing and getting that process as soon as possible.
Yes, sir. We are on it every day because it's necessary to keep this whole process moving. So,
Keep
yes.
finger under pressure. Yes, sir, Pete.
Yes, sir, I just wanted to contribute on that line that the
Wait, can you hang on a second? Robert, do we anticipate that we're gonna get the 5 million for? I mean, is that anticipated that we actually are gonna get that, or
Okay.
close to it, or
Okay. In
not anywhere
conversations
near it?
with conversations with Kyle Herring, who is the consultant that we hired to process all this information with strategic claims, he is hopeful that he can get the insurance company back on track once we do this, and then get them to start to process these invoices. That, the question that you're asking, do we anticipate getting that? I certainly hope so. We're going through that process to do that. We're providing all the information. And as you can see within these letters to the insurance company, they said, we'll be happy to look at your additional information, but we've got to process it. And they're reserving judgment on what they're going to pay or not pay. So, I can't answer that question, but I can be hopeful that we will receive that money. Are we going to receive everything based upon the damage? No, I don't believe so. But we've got to go through this process, and I really can't answer that question, but I'm hopeful.
But it's anticipated the 3 million or so that we've advanced so far. Right now, we're just keeping contractors out there. If we get the 5 million, we're still gonna have that 3 million in there, I'm sure.
Yes, there will be an amount that we will have to pay.
Okay.
The amount is uncertain, but it's a large number,
Our contribution is still gonna be
substantial.
okay. I was just hoping to get at least part of that.
Yes.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, I have a couple of questions, but I'd rather wait until Keith through.
All right. Well, I was gonna get to everybody once we get the reports in. But
I just want to get the answer.
that was important, the insurance as well as staying and encouraging them to stay on top of this. Okay, Keith, I'm sorry.
Yeah, so the only thing I wanted to contribute to the question that you had asked is that the plumbers showed up on site on Tuesday of this week and began their work, and they should be completed by end of today. So all of that will have been done this week. And then next week, they can get together with the insurance inspector, assuming that he's available. And then they can begin the process of going forward and showing the insurance inspector or adjuster what exactly has been done and seeing if he is willing to sign off on those items.
Okay, also I wanted to point out, Robert and Keith, has anybody been in contact with McDonald to see whether or not they can send a letter to saying that their plumber did X amount of work, just a general statement to supply that as a supplement?
We have not been in contact with McDonald. We are in contact with the contractors that McDonald did hire back in March. And they are cooperative. The issue is with the work that was done by the maintenance.
And that's what McDonald controls that person, and they assign them a duty for that particular day or days of the week.
Mhm.
So maybe they can give you something that documents that. That's the only thing I'm saying.
Yeah, we don't have a problem with the documentation of those contractors that were hired third party.
I'm
And
talking
we have
about
those. invoices.
McDonald as an employee. You understand where I'm coming from? You work for me, Keith. I told you to go do something, so Keith went and done it, so I can write that letter and document. That's all I'm saying.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
That was all I had. I just wanted to make you aware of the fact that those parties were on site and that work wasn't being done.
Okay, Mr. Aaron?
Still bothers me. It doesn't sound like you're all using insurance intermediary because you're arguing with the insurance company. I know you've got someone looking over the paperwork. It doesn't sound like he's really negotiating with them. It sounds more like he's just compiling paper. I don't know what his role is.
His name is Keith Herring with Strategic Claims, and no, he is the consultant that has been hired to provide all this documentation and coordinate and argue if necessary on our behalf. Taking, I don't want to say a public adjuster because we're not allowed to have one, but they assume that role as consultant and do a number of things very similar to what an adjuster, public adjuster would do. So yes, we have hired that person. They are doing that. They're the ones that produce the 66-page claim for the initial amount. And they are still working with the insurance company. We have coordinated with them. They think the plumber idea is an excellent idea, that this seems to be the issue with the insurance. Again, we're dealing with an independent adjuster and then the adjuster. And so first we have to satisfy the independent adjuster with regard to what is provided to him. And then he reports to insurance company, who then says, oh, I concur with what you're saying. So no, we are being represented.
And the maintenance man you mentioned, and I think we talked about this before, out there to do some work, to get a document. Who did you work for at the time, McDonald?
Yes, he worked for McDonald for the previous property management company, McDonald Property Management. Yeah,
Still with us?
he is no longer with them. He left, and we have,
But we don't have much leverage. on it back
no, and we've offered to, compensate him for his time to come back. And he's just refusing. So this is how we have to document it.
then. The other thing that bothers me is the lady that spoke a little while ago saying the work we're doing is worthless. I don't know exactly what she means by that, but some of the board members, I believe, went out there and changed the scope of the work and kind of increased, I guess, quality. I'll admit.
Yeah, the scope is not only the quality, is more so is there were some existing damages to some of the facilities, documenting that, and then correcting some of those problems, particularly holes punched in walls and things of that nature that are attached but never properly addressed, and carpet as opposed to some. So those are kind of technical things that been happening. We recommended that adjustment take care of those things, but there's some things that management company, when you got a door that's been busted 3 or 4 times and glued back together by the residents, that's something that needs to be addressed. Okay. Any other questions?
Just this, what mechanism are we using? We, not the board, but we, the entity, the housing authority, communicate with something that we're doing to change. But I keep hearing the same complaint over and over again. We don't know what's going on, and that wants to on this. We don't know what's going on with the units, we'll be able to get back, what's being done.
Sure, I can answer that. So we did hire relocation specialists to communicate what we do know about the units, and they have been doing that. I think there's obviously, a lot of anxiety, anticipation about when they can move back in the units. And of course, we don't know that right now, and that's why we hadn't been able to communicate that. What we did communicate was folks moving back to the units. Obviously, again, there was the first group of 8 that we were going to relocate back. After the first individual moved, came and toward our unit, it became very apparent that we probably needed some intervention on behalf of the board and others, because some of the things that were being brought up as it relates to the units were outside of the scope of what the folk contractors were doing. And before we went any further with bringing others over to say, hey, here's your unit ready to move back in. And as you heard, some of them had the ability to access those units either by looking in the window or because the doors were left open and weren't necessarily happy with what they saw in terms of the unit. And they were supposed to be almost ready in one case. So what is known is communicated to the residents. I mean, some of what I mentioned, the issue about when they can move back in the units, no, other than those 8 or so that we identified initially. But again, we sort of halted that. So right now, we don't really have an indication. I wasn't sure if real estate folks that had any more further indication of maybe what the 8, where we were with those. However, that is the issue. We don't know for sure. And again, item 5G, we'll talk about the expanded scope and the ability to move forward with all of the units with the expanded skills. We were only initially with the 2 board members saying we were gonna move forward with those that initial group. But it remains to be seen exactly what the time frame is. But the relocation specialists are communicating with them, residents daily about issues that they're having, and we're using them as a conduit to get information back to us, or issues relative to payment and the like, as far as that part's concerned. But yes, they're right about that. As it relates to the mailbox issue,
Let me ask you a quick question.
sure, okay,
Is
go
it the
ahead.
post office responsibility to maintain the boxes? or-
No, sir, they're not USPS boxes, they're private boxes that are owned by
Okay, so it's our
us.
responsibility.
So it's our responsibility to keep them in appropriate shape, or, or, I mean, they need to be operable. This has been a chronic problem, ongoing problem as far as the mailboxes are concerned. There's a long-term solution, i.e., relocating the boxes in a secure location with access only by residents with a key, as far as that's concerned, as opposed to being out. The temporary fix is to relocate boxes that were previously purchased. In addition to, which we don't have enough of, we only have about 160 or 80. The balance of those, the 280 is on order. We should have it in 2 weeks, maybe by now. It's probably up to about 2 weeks.
It's gonna be about 3.
3 weeks. 3 weeks. And those will be in the leasing office temporarily until we obviously been able to construct a retrofit. I think we were looking at a laundry room for the purposes of having a permanent, secure location for mail. In the interim, the post office will hold the mail temporarily. There seems to be a little bit of disconnect going back and forth about, the mail carrier not holding it, or still distributing mail, even though there was some agreement to hold it at least temporarily. And what's happened is that mail is amassing, they just send it back. And that is true. They're sending mail back if folks don't come and pick it up. So honestly, I mean, we've encouraged folks to get PO boxes. Of course, that means you still have to go to the post office. And some feel like the mailboxes should be fixed on site, which is true. And, but it is an ongoing back and forth with the mail, between mail being delivered inadvertently or held, sent back. And it is true that mail was being held for more than 30 days. Folks, they weren't being picked up in some cases, so they were being sent back.
Someone recommended security cameras.
Yes.
Get the mailbox moved. We looking at that?
Well, okay, so yes, there will be security cameras in the permanent, even when they're permanently affixed.
I'm talking about that.
Yeah, I understand. So the security is there, but that it doesn't address the issue of the boxes that are already broken. And that's the issue, is the ones that are broken are still broken, and they can't deliver mail to those. Yes, they can deliver mail to some, and they are delivering mail in some cases to those that are not broken. But there is some thought to put them temporarily there. We do have security there, and they are doing their rotation. So we hadn't had any issue with vandalism recently. This is from months previous that this occurred. It's never been addressed.
We can't fix the mailbox.
So,
I mean, they're broken. We can't-
no, not the ones that are there. No. I mean, essentially, they take the face off. I mean, I'm not a mailbox architect, but I don't know. They can't repair. I guess the way they damage the mailboxes, you can't replace. You have to replace them. So this has happened a few times.
We have a solution.
Well, the solution, well,
I don't mean a long-term solution.
Immediate solution is a camera that I've been hopping on for two.
the
over
camera
2
won't
weeks.
fix the mailboxes that are broken.
Well, then you don't put anything in those broken boxes, but you can service the others, okay? And
So
just
that's what's
those
happening.
individuals that are broken, that the mail should be held.
Well, as I mentioned, the post office is supposed to hold the mail. They was instructed to hold the mail, but then the carrier is still delivering the mail. But if the mail is held for more than 10 days or so, they do send it back and folks aren't pick. I understand, I'm just sharing the
You know,
scenario.
if we do our obligations and our due diligence, then that in and of itself is what needs to happen.
Right, and they're not necessarily complaining about the lack of security currently with the mail. It's about the mailboxes being broken and the mail not being
Well, they're in
held.
the
But I do
process of
agree.
being fixed, Patrick, and it's gonna take 2 to 3 weeks is what I'm hearing. Okay, but thank you for that. Any other questions that?
Well, other than I understand why we can't find mailboxes. They literally can't find them.
They're fine.
They were ordered, it's taking like 5 weeks to get the mailbox, the
The
additional
delivery
mailbox.
process is poor.
And then they have to be specially made because you have to have the actual addresses on there. I mean, this is education for me, but I mean, yes, there's something about mailboxes, you have to be custom made, they have to have the actual address on the box. And that's something, it's a special order, and apparently this happens often. And that has to be the case when you have private mailboxes. They had but they had about 160 mailboxes. The postmaster rejected these boxes, so they actually just had these sitting there because they reordered all of them. But those are the ones that are damaged, at least part of them. So apparently it takes a long time, and that's kind of where we are. You don't know if you have any more insight on the mailbox.
Yes, absolutely. The short-term fix, as was my recommendation, is that we place a camera on site, and at least until the boxes are moved. As we go forward, the complete plan is that we will, once the new mailboxes arrive, that we will take those mailboxes along with the existing mailboxes, move them into the front section of the clubhouse. And those boxes will be available for the residents between working hours, 8 to 5, 9 to 5. Then during the weekend, there will also be staff on site that will be able to make those mailboxes available to the residents. I'm not sure if it's going to be half a day or if it's going to be all day at this point. We do have security on site. Security's primary job is to be patrolling the units, the buildings themselves. They're currently doing that on foot, and they are working between 6 a.m. and 6 p.m. or 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. each day. And that now does include the weekends, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday as well. One of the reasons that it's taking a little while to get those mailboxes, just as an FYI, is that they have to be engraved specifically with the units that are needed. And they are on back order, as many items are these days. But that is the total scope of what's planned for the mailboxes until we can relocate them into another site. And the current plan for that is that the mailboxes at Rosemont stand in front of the laundry facility. And the idea is that if we can go in and insert the new mailboxes inside that building, then we can do controlled access into the building, and we can also add security features in there. That doesn't take care of us today, but that is the long-term plan that we're looking at. And I've instructed property management to get me free bids for construction just for that work that will be done by another contractor. So we aren't involving or slowing down the 2 contractors that are currently doing the work on the units.
Okay.
So in essence, we still in a quandary with the mail. Because it doesn't get held for a long period of time, and it does get sent back. And they're not incorrect in that.
We got that. Thank you. Patrick.
Okay.
John, you have something you want to say? Okay. I want to do something, and I need Keith and Robert need to talk to Capstone, and contractors should not be communicating with the residents. Either they communicate with you all or with Patrick, and that's got to stop.
Right.
Okay, so you need to be informed, Valley, of that, okay?
I'll be happy to. I'll be back out on site again this afternoon, and I will visit with staff personally on that matter. I think probably one of the reasons we've had a little breakdown in that is because we had so many units where the residents were not wanting to move out of the residence. And it has generally gone pretty smooth with the contractors to be the ones that knock on the door of the residents, at least at this point now it is. And they have been very accommodating to the crews. But I take your point with regard to them addressing anything such as completion times or scope of work issues with the tenants. That should be handled ideally by the management company. And we will address that this afternoon.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Anybody else?
So
Okay,
next
next item on the
Mr. Chair,
agenda.
I was gonna maybe summarize what happened on Tuesday, because there's no agenda item that actually
Okay,
addresses that.
yeah, what happened at the court?
So the Commissioners Court did vote on two items on Tuesday. It was I think I said mentioned to everyone, number 17 and number 42. The 17 included talked about the reappointments. It was about reappointments. There was no action on the reappointments. However, but the only direction was given specifically was to replace Ms. Denton on the Strategic Housing Finance Board. And 42 included a tenant bill of rights and recommendation for bylaw changes that I provided to you all for discussion at some point. Consistent with the bylaw recommendations, they also included in that motion, the inclusion of two board members to strategic to expanded back to 7, which would include 2 tenants from an SHFC property. That's what got discussed. The reappointment did not get discussed, only this filling of a vacant position. You may ask about how that may work. Ms. Denton did resign from the strategic board at the Housing Authority. As those who were here in summer of 16, you voted to change the articles of incorporation to have the same membership on both boards. However, in our attorney's discussion with the county attorney or deputy attorney at the time, they did not move forward with changing the language. So technically, the membership of the 2 boards do not have to be the same. So as a result, they could appoint someone to the strategic board and then not be on the Housing Authority board, at least as the current is. Cliff is on the line. I don't know how much more we can say, Cliff, at this point for the board, other than maybe have a special meeting to discuss this item. But I'm going to turn it over to him if in fact he feels like there's more that can be stated about what happened on this issue.
Yeah. So I'm not quite sure how to answer that question. There's several issues with the resolution, or I don't know if there are issues. I have several questions about the resolution that was adopted by the Commissioners Court on Tuesday. I have been talking very frequently over the last month with the county attorney's office about some of these issues. I've not spoken to them since this was adopted on Tuesday. And I guess at this point, since it's not an action item, I'd rather not get into the specifics of that, but just that I think there's some things that need some clarification on, or that we need some clarification on. In regards to the board makeup, it is, Patrick did describe that correctly. The county attorney's office and I, back in 2016, just never came to really, not that we were in disagreement, but he just never moved forward with getting the article amendment that the strategic board adopted, approved by the county, and that's a requirement. There were some other, I don't know if you remember at the time, but there were some other issues going on at that time that made it a little difficult to move forward. So it is true that there's not a requirement that the Board of Strategic and the Housing Authority be the same people, which was the subject of that amendment to the articles in 2016. So that never became effective. Patrick, was there anything else you wanted me to specifically talk about?
If in fact, when you, I was going to suggest to the board, they probably want to have a special meeting to discuss this, and it would be contingent on your ability to get feedback from the county so that maybe those questions could be answered at that time. And of course, you indicated that you haven't been able to talk to them yet, so I'm not sure if we want to wait, if the board members want to wait to decide on when they want to meet, or if you believe that it's imminent that you would talk to them, at least in the short, very soon, they could potentially set up a special meeting before the end of the meeting today to talk about this.
Yeah, I'm confident that I will talk to them very soon. I would assume either today or tomorrow, but I'm not sure if they will be able to give me an answer that quickly, or if they'll need to go back, do some thinking on it. But I will say I'm fairly confident that I will talk to them by the end of the week, and kind of convey what my questions, and then I can let you know when I have a response. They generally respond fairly quickly, but they could be a week would be my guess.
Why don't you get with them and then get with Patrick, and then Patrick can notify the executive committee, and we can decide on the meeting date at that point.
Okay, yes, will do.
Okay.
All right. All right.
Anything else under the Rosemont? Yes.
Yes, sir. That's what I was saying. She resigned only from the strategic board, so she technically is still in the housing authority board. And that's because this, as Cliff mentioned, that the articles of incorporation never got changed to say that if you're on one board, you're on the other. She has plans to meet today on the housing authority call meeting. I think she may have a conflict, so she may or may not be on, but she plans on being on today, not in person, but
She's on.
right. But she said she couldn't do that.
Oh,
Okay.
I don't want to ask everything that's on my mind. Our bylaws say that there has to be 7 members.
The bylaws now say 5. Because we changed the bylaws.
Well, the bylaws are changed, but obviously whatever has to happen beyond the bylaws.
Okay, so for you to have 7, the board here would have to change the bylaws to reflect 7. There's no magic number.
It was never documented. You're just saying the only documentation that wasn't done was the board member.
That's correct.
It was the county that has to verify that, Eddie, and they did not. They did not certify that. They did not.
Yeah, I got that. But the change that we can have up to 7 members, that was changed. That is in our bylaws.
changed the bylaws to reflect 5 to move forward with the action, but it just didn't, it didn't come to full fruition. However, the county has been, in practice has been doing that, but it's never been codified.
So it was changed by this board at the request of the county, but the county never took legal action to verify it. Okay? So our bylaws were changed, but that's all. Let's move on. Anything else, Patrick?
Go to the next agenda item.
Okay, item 5. We have,
Robert, it's
you want to go with-
it's about Blue Ridge Apartments, item 5A.
Sure. So we're going to have a number of resolutions here that represent an inducement resolution for the 2022 Bond Review Board lottery. And so the first one is Blue Ridge Apartments. It is with Elmington, who a developer that we have worked with both on Wild Horse Flats and also Jaeger Flats. And now this one here, Blue Ridge Apartments, is also in the Wild Horse subdivision. And I've listed the number of units, where it's located, et cetera. It'll be at 100% at 60. Again, this is just an inducement resolution to go in the Bond Review Board. They're going to do it 100% at 60. We anticipate if they get hit, it will be sometime in August of 2022. And we've moved forward to close the transaction. This would be the first part of us sponsoring this particular application with the Bond Review Board. So I am requesting the authorization to move forward with resolution 2021-18.
There a second? All those in favor? All opposed? There none, motion passed. B?
Okay. The next one is with the same developer. It's called Daffin Flats. It is located close to Decker Lake. It is with, like I said, the same developer. They're going to do 100% at 60. This is a sponsoring this application through inducement with the Bond Review Board. Same situation. I did want to point out something on both of these transactions. What I have talked to the developer on, and they have requested, is that the developer fee be 70-30 in this particular transaction. Now, this is very early on, but still nonetheless, because they presented us 2 transactions, we're willing to change our percentage strictly just on the developer's fee to 70-30. Because they're presenting 2 deals. Obviously, if they didn't, we wouldn't do that. Our typical arrangement is 65 to the developer, 35 to us on all developers' fee, cash flow, and residual. So I just wanted to mention that. And again, same situation, and I recommend that we move forward with resolution 2021-19.
I move for approval.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. All opposed? None.
Robert, can you skip 20 until one gets back?
20? Okay, yes. All right. Now I'm going to go on to 2 transactions. The first one, resolution 2121, is with Legacy, and it's Hudson Apartments. And again, it's the same, it's an application, sponsoring the application of the Bond Review Board. And also there's the second one on the next page. The thing that I did want to make the board aware of is in these 2 particular applications, the site we do not have site control at this point. And that is a requirement for a BRB application. I talked to the sponsor last night, and he said, because he didn't have it, let's pull it. I told him, we don't have to have the application. The deadline is October the 20th to file an application. what I am recommending is that we give this sponsor the opportunity to put these two under contract. If it cannot get accomplished, then they would pay us our, cost of handling, but would not pay us the application fee that we typically get, which is $10,000 each. Now, we can elect not to do it. We could just pull them, but I'm trying to accommodate a situation. If they are not able to get the units or the land under contract, then they plan on moving forward and do some kind of market rate with some affordability. I want to give these applications full opportunity for a bond and a 4% if it's at all possible. And if not, then we'll go on and we'll look at doing this some other way. But this will allow the sponsor to continue to try to put it under contract. They have a short time fuse because the 20th is coming up pretty quick, and we'll know whether or not this is going to happen or not. And again, we would be compensated by just covering our costs for, we've already done the work. I think the sponsor was very concerned that he didn't want to go forward with these deals because they weren't under contract, because it might affect their reputation. And I said, I'm just going to present it to the board just this way. We don't have them on a contract. We have to. This is going to go forward. I would recommend that we go ahead and approve the resolution. If they get them under contract, we move forward. If we can't, then they drop. And so my recommendation is to go ahead and recommend resolution 2021-21, which is Legacy Hudson Apartments.
Any questions, comments, or what's your thoughts? A motion. All those in favor? Opposed? Hearing none, motion passed.
Okay, I'll go to the next one, which is also Legacy, but it's East MLK, which is kind of referencing where it's located. Same situation as I mentioned before. The one thing that I wanted to note on both of these applications, what they planned on doing is filing a priority where 15% of the units would be at 30, the balance at 60. By doing such, and I'm not sure, and Robbie, you can correct me whether it's 1A or 1B, that allows them to get a preference on the picking of the particular reservation. You get first priority if you're in that particular category. And so that's what they were planning on doing. As a result of that, and because of our interest in trying to get more 30% units, we had discussed a split of 70-30 across the board. And that is, of course, to get more 30% units, we're giving up something to get that. Again, this is very preliminary, but I did want to present that to the board because we had talked about how are we going to get more 30% units. And one of the ways to do that is to offer a different structure. And that's what they are offering at this point. But of course, we don't know whether or not this will move forward because of the site control. So anyway, I recommend resolution 2021-22, Legacy East MLK Apartments.
Is there a second? All in favor? Oh, any opposed? Motion passed. Okay, 2021-23.
Okay, what I'd like to do, we
we
skipped
got it
over
right.
one when you were out of the office.
All right.
Out of the office. Out of the board. So this is called Casey Bridge Apartments, and it is located on the east side of Austin off of 71. Again, this is an inducement resolution to the bond review board. And so I am recommending this one as well. The set asides at this point, I don't know that they have determined. I think it's 100% at 60, but this is at the very early stage. And so I recommend resolution 2021-20 Casey Bridge Apartments.
Now, is there one question, is there any issues with any of these as it regards to the city of Austin, Hopper? Have we gone through that process?
No, sir. I'm not aware that there's any resistance to us doing this. Obviously, they would have to receive a reservation. That probably would be the best time to kind of clear the air on whether there are any issues. And certainly the developer would want to know that they have a green light before they start spending money. But just, sponsoring them in the bond review board, we just don't know whether or not they'll get a reservation. So it's kind of premature to ask that question.
Okay. I
understand.
Moving all of these things.
We
and then all
haven't
of a
forgotten
sudden,
about that.
everything gets stopped. Okay, is there entertain a motion? All in favor? Go ahead. And the last item is that the last one?
Now we'll go back to
23.
23.
Yeah.
All right, so this particular resolution has to do with Rosemont and Oak Valley, and it's written, the resolution, very general. Here's what we plan on doing. We've had numerous discussions about the issues with regard to Rosemont. This is a long-term solution. A long-term solution would be to re-syndicate the transaction and do a major renovation to the apartment complex. When I say major, we're talking probably 65,000 a unit. What we're intending to do is to pull in a developer who would be the development partner, similar to what we've discussed here and other transactions, that would go forward, reissue bonds, get new tax credits, do major renovation, and do a rolling rehab on the transaction. We feel like this is what when we purchased Rosemont at Oak Valley in September 2019, this was one of the options that we were going to do. We think certainly we couldn't come at a better time to try to put this in the lottery to see if we couldn't get bonds in order to do major rehab to the property. And so this is why I'm requesting that. We're at the very early stage. I do not know if we have to create a different entity in order to submit the bond review board, and I will ask bond counsel about that and I just haven't heard a response at this point. But this gives us major flexibility to consider doing a long-term solution to Rosemont at Oak Valley. So I recommend SHFC 2123.
Entertain motion. All in favor? Thank you. 24.
I believe that's
Yeah, that's right.
okay.
So as mentioned last, we did the walkthrough with the one of the residents intending to have them return to the units, but as they requested, they wanted to do a walkthrough and get an inspection report as well. After that occurred, from the feedback we got, Robert was actually present in addition to the project manager for Capstone. And we also got feedback from the resident as well. So it became clear that it probably needed the board, at least a committee from the board, to be able to view what was seemingly not acceptable in the lives of the residents. Moving back into the units that Mr. Roberts was alluding to, So at the time, there was some decision made that we would at least preliminarily continue to move to work on those units to try to get them to an acceptable standard, with the idea of bringing it for the full board consideration today, to look at an expanded scope of work, which would likely not be covered by the insurance, which would obviously be cost we would probably bear ourselves. Primarily cosmetic, we're talking about primarily, repairing the walls specifically and painting and floor coverings for the most part. In some cases, there may be something that may be just inoperable that may need to be repaired, but for the most part, we're talking about those two items. We don't have a specific dollar amount per se that we're saying would be prescribed to address those. But we believe the consensus was, and I can let the board member speak now, but the consensus was that this probably really needed to happen. So that's why this is on the agenda today. So with that, I'll turn it back over to you. Yeah, go ahead.
I tried to go through that. I was one of the board members that was out there, and I want to cover a couple of things. There were a couple of comments made during the public forum that this board has dismissed comment from residents in the past, and that is, at least for this board member, that's completely untrue. I have never dismissed residents' comments, and I take them fully to heart. And I believe this board is trying every effort that we can to get through a very difficult situation. When I went out there, I believe that last week, Thursday,
Yes.
and walked these units to see exactly what was being repaired. And I want to make clear that the rehabilitation that's being done right now is to fix damage that was done during the winter storm and trying to repair the health and safety issues that were brought about because of the winter storm. We understand that there are other issues involved, and that is the reason why you see another agenda item that Mr. Onion just addressed about doing a major rehabilitation to this development. When we purchased the development in 2019, that was our plan. It wasn't our plan to do it right now because we didn't know we had all the issues that we have. And the winter storm has exacerbated those issues. And so I want everyone to understand that the plan right now is to fix what the winter storm has overly compromised and to get residents back into the units so that we can go into a more comprehensive plan to make a rehabilitation and a major rehabilitation to the development. So I ask for the residents' patience. You're not going to have everything fixed. If the water heater is working, the water heater is not going to be replaced. If the AC is working, the AC is not going to be replaced. If there is a broken door that was caused by a tenant, that broken door is not going to be replaced right at this point because that was not caused by the winter storm. I want everyone to understand we are trying to make repairs caused by the storm. But we are going a step further and we are trying to make things a little bit better. Mr. Roberts and I were out there. We did expand our scope of work beyond that, and that does include, painting throughout, a little cosmetic piece, and replacing flooring. So where there is flooring that is majorly compromised, then we are replacing that flooring. But I want everybody to understand what we're trying to accomplish right now is to repair damage from what was previously there. And so, Mr. Howard, that's my comments, but I want everybody to understand what we're trying to accomplish right now, and then we can, make a plan going forward for a comprehensive rehabilitation, and we will sit down with the tenants, and we will know exactly what that plan is going to be.
And to add to that, I was the other person out there, and we're bringing this recommendation. Mr. Howard has put this based on our evaluations of those units that we looked at. And as Ms. Myers has pointed out, we are committed to the residents, and we're committed to getting this unit to what the idea was when we purchased it 2 years ago. So we want to make sure that we do it in a fashion that would make not only the residents proud to live there, but also us proud to own. We are committed to doing whatever it takes to get this done, and we tried to explain that in the past at other meetings that we've had, and Mr. Howard has been operating in our direction, and we appreciate any support. Any questions about what's been said so far? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve resolution 2024.
And we have questions on what we decided to do. The standard scope.
Well, I disagree with you just that.
John, do you have any disagreement in what we, the major part is, just paint throughout the units and changing the carpet out.
It may not be a complete carpet change, if there's carpet that's good in the bedrooms, we're not gonna change that out, but if it's bad in the living room, we'll change it. There'll be some evaluation, and that's Mr. Onions and Mr. Keith.
Just to clarify, in your example, what you're saying is, even if the storm did not cause damage to that back carpet, it's still back.
That's
Yeah.
correct. And I'll give you an example. There was one unit that we went through that there was damage to the carpet. And the hall and the living room carpet was taken out. The bedroom carpets were shampooed and nice and clean. So the bedroom carpets are there, but the hall carpet was taken out, and the flooring was taken out. So it's not carpet in there.
Who's making the determination if it's bad carpet or?
Keith is now our general contractor out there. And so we walked several units, so he kind of has the idea of what we expected, what we considered that. And so, and a couple of the units have been, shampooed and Wilmer and I put on the shampoo.
Okay, I was wondering if it was a specific person.
Yeah, well, now ultimately the decision falls back to Mr. Howard, but Keith is our on site, he's our site project manager. Full time.
I mean, that's.
Is that okay with you all? Okay, well, entertain a motion, and I think I have that. You will offer the motion.
Mr. Chair, I don't know, I know there's been people chatting, I don't know if anybody's, maybe if you can just check this book if you don't mind. I don't think that folks will ask any questions.
Well, this is a motion, this is not a public portion of it. This is just a motion. Okay? And we need to get through the motion, and I will open up for any additional comments if necessary. Okay?
Who made the
We have a
motion?
motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye. Okay, the motion passed. Now, if you want to allow someone, if someone has a comment or something, or is there something in the chat room?
Come on in. I'm on mute, I think.
I thought we did 23, but didn't we do 23?
Yeah, we did 23.
No, we did 23.
Yeah, and then we just did 24 for the.
So they both been approved. Okay. Who was that saying something there, David?
I think it was Ann.
What did you say, Ann? Ann? Miss Denton?
It sounds like Gabby to me.
It was Gabby.
Ms. Denton is on mute.
What's the comments in there? Anybody, did you have anybody in mind that had some
No,
comments?
sir, I just know that I saw from afar that the chat had been building up, chatting up, and it's
Okay,
desired to see what.
no, yeah, we're gonna move on because the purpose of this is to benefit and to clear up some of the things that they've been talking about. And we passed both of those motions that we take care of, okay? All right, next item on the agenda is the item 6. It's you, Ms. Patrick.
Yeah, we'll hear from Robert at this time.
Existing.
Okay, with regard to the existing affordable multifamily developments, I'll brief by exception. Our existing portfolio is doing well. Something that we probably don't bring up, as often only because it's being taken care of. You know, we had damage to Forest Park, we had damage to Silver Springs. It hasn't been just Cambridge and Rosemont at Oak Valley. And so Keith has been working with the developer on that, and those particular properties are being addressed. And we to date have not heard a whole lot of complaints from them. The contractors have done the work. It's being finished, and they're releasing those particular units. So, you know, it's a situation that is citywide with regard to the damage and freeze. I think you're going to hear a lot of other apartment complexes, if you haven't heard already, that have had damage. I don't know that they're following the same procedure we are, and so they may continue to have issues with the apartment complex. But the other portfolio that we have, it has been quiet. So that's a good thing. So that's the
Pending,
pardon me.
the pending.
The pending, okay, yes. So the next one that we have are the pending. So we have Middle Fistville, Interport, Blue Ridge, Daffin. These are all the ones that some of them I mentioned today, a couple of them we are currently working on. Middle Fistville is one of them. Interport is another that's already been previously approved. So we have quite a few transactions that are pending. Middle Fistville will close here probably in another month, which will give us some additional capital that I'm sure we've already got committed at this point for other purposes. So that's the potential transactions that we have in front of us.
Okay, what's happening out at Manor? Did we ever get all of that worked out with start leasing up and et cetera?
Yes, sir. As of this week, Manor is, as of last week, Manor was open and leasing. They are now at 17% leased, and they just got their first new move in early this week.
Yeah.
And what else? There was a couple, one or two others.
Yeah, we've got Manchac at Commons, that is just behind Commons of Manor. And they're in the process of getting certificate of occupancies and starting their lease up process as well. So they're very far along. They're 99% complete and starting their lease up.
They're at 56% leased right now.
Wow, excuse me. See, that's why he
Well,
takes
with the bad news we've been getting in the news lately with Austin and the surrounding areas not getting.
This is good news.
Affordable housing, we want to try to do our part to help out. Any other questions, comments? Okay. Thank you, Robert. Finance from Super.
Yes, on page 159 and 160 is the financial report. This is through August 31st. And so one thing that I wanted to highlight was I also included the Rosemont resident relocation expenses. Through August, it's 216,000. And I also have the number through September, that is $623,000. That is the amount, this consists of, the amount that we pay for lodging and storage and moving for the residents at Rosemont. And we did submit an invoice to the Travis County for $335,000. And so far they have paid us $244,000, and they said another payment is coming. And they also said that a few items they might not reimburse us.
What are those items?
I don't know what the items are. They said they'll let me know in the coming weeks.
Well, we have to understand what that is so we don't continue to pull money.
I'm assuming those are the damages done by the residents at the lodging facility. Some residents have made a hole in the wall.
Okay.
Yeah, there was damages that were being inflicted on the units by the residents. We have Capstone is assessing those against the resident, on the part of their balances or their accounts. So hopefully, ultimately, if in fact the building coverage who have funds, will have some means of ourselves. That's the sense, but as it relates to closing out the accounts with the hotels, we need to actually pay the full balance.
What's the status on the county assistant have they confirmed the commitment? Is it just the 1.4? I think it was
1.6, and the 1.6 is including what we estimated the relocation costs and the associated cost for relocation and storage and the like. It's moving to and fro and moving ultimately back to the site. In addition to rent coverage for all of the Rosemont residents through the end of the year, October, November, and December. That's the one. So when they say 1.6, they're inclusive of that, all of that, not just the actual relocation initiative. It's anybody at Rosemont, anybody who lives at Rosemont now, they're not going to be ready for the rest of the year.
Any other questions, comments?
Yeah, I just want to make a comment on that. Make sure that the fall
Yeah, I could speak to that now, but so to be honest with you, our software is not conducive, and anytime you're behind on any kind of submitting vouchers, that there is you have to do it manually, and it's kind of problematic. So the HUD Washington was suggesting to us that they're assigning us technical assistance to try to help us get through this problem with the software. But we basically needed to commit to exploring the idea of getting new software, because our software for multifamily is not what it needs to be, and it's what's causing the problems. You know, particularly in a case where there's any kind of retro, any accounting arrears, or trying to address it that way. So there was a meeting just this morning about that prior to this meeting. We feel like we have an answer that would allow us to catch up on those. No, I thought you were talking money over, but and that's already one. Yes. That's correct. Eastern and Sea Oaks and Sea That's correct. Our software.
What's the cost on replacing that software?
Quite a bit.
What is quite a bit?
Well, I mean, software, we're talking about a couple $100,000 or so for software.
Well, if we, can we do something with the COVID money or things of that nature?
COVID money is
We've been very exercising liberalness as it relates to how we spend it, but it would be a justifiable cost under COVID. I mean, but you know, it's been brought before, and we've been working through that obviously because we can. But I mean, the migration it's not a small process when you're talking about. You know, I mean, it takes some time, but we are going to look into it because it's come up again, and you know, they threw out some names of some, but it's likely we're probably going to need to move forward in the future with, you know, replacing the software, at least for that portion of it, the 105 minutes multifamily.
So let's put it on the in the budget for next year, okay? And let's move forward with that, because if we're not collecting the money, we're, you know, not able to sustain ourselves. So, okay. Anything else? Any new business? No. Any reason to go into executive session? Not. Item 9 is I entertain a motion for adjournment. Second. All in favor?